Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Personal scary stories. Let's get a good old true scary story thread going /x/. No creepypastas allowed, just real stories you have or have heard. Creepypastas are boring.
Be a municipal wastewater construction project engineer. I am working on a $20 million improvement project in Cambridge, Maryland. I live on the other side of the Chesapeake Bay. It is a 3-hour drive to work. I am tight with the project manager because he is a friend of my family. He tells me I can stay at his house on Tillman Island to avoid the 3-hour drive home every day. Cool, thanks man. He tells me he's going to his girlfriend's house. No worries, the door's unlocked. I leave the project site after the brigade finishes the last of the work and I finish the paperwork. It is 8 p.m. I use the GPS to drive to the address he gives me. I stop to grab a sandwich and drink at the last gas station before the bridge to the island. I pull up to the house. It is the smallest, oldest 4-room house I have ever seen. The house is situated in a long-time fisherman's town on the water's edge, with gravel roads off the one main paved road. Bullshit. I go up on the rickety porch and drag the screen door open. The front door is unlocked. I let myself in. The computer and internet at the project manager's house suck, but I settle down at the computer to watch a show. No central air. I notice the speaker wire to the speakers on the shelf above the computer screen starts to swing back and forth gently, like someone kicked it. I think I must have hit it somehow. Maybe a long length of wire is curled up under the computer desk. It is 9:30 p.m. now. It is bedtime. I have to be up by 5 a.m. I fell asleep. Suddenly, I snap fully awake. I'm facing the alarm clock on the nightstand. The clock reads 12 a.m. on the dot. I wonder why I'm fully awake after a 14-hour workday. I try to go back to sleep. 12:03 a.m. I hear footsteps on the gravel road outside. What the fuck? Only 7 people live in this town. It sounds like pacing up and down the gravel road. The pacing back and forth intensifies. I am alert and awake, sitting upright in bed now. I am nervous. The pacing sounds like it goes from the roadway up into the project manager's driveway now. I realized that the front door was always unlocked because the lock was old and did not work. I take 4 steps across the tiny house from the bedroom to the kitchen to arm myself with a knife. I hold the knife with the blade laid across my arm. I go out front to investigate. No one is in the driveway. No one is on the road. The whole street is silent. I head back inside. I am spooked but sleepy. I lay back down. Footsteps in the gravel road out front start again 2 minutes later. What the fuck? I look out the bedroom window through the cracked blinds. No one is there, but the sound of footsteps in the road continues. I look out the other window. No one is there. The footsteps intensify and sound like they are coming toward the first window I looked out. I hear footsteps pacing directly outside the window. I grab the knife and sit against the wall, out of sight of the window. The footsteps go out to the roadway, intensify, and come directly back at the window like someone was running. I hear footsteps run up the wooden siding and onto the tin roof without missing a beat. There are heavy footsteps on the roof. The thing is running from the rooftop, down the siding, and onto the gravel roadway now. I freak out. What do I do? The weirdness continues for a long while, then stops. It is 1:45 a.m. I try to sleep because I will be fucked for work tomorrow. I keep the knife close by, then close and barricade the bedroom door with a chair. I fell back asleep after some time. 3 a.m. Something shoves the shit out of my right knee straight down into the mattress. I am spooked out and do not open my eyes. I pretend to be asleep. I get shoved again. I pull the covers over my head and cry silently to myself. I wake up the next morning with bruises on my knee that was shoved. It hurts to walk. The doctor cannot explain the injury. and states it looks like it came from the inside out. I have never seen anything like this. MP4. I told the project manager's girlfriend about the encounter. She tells me, "Oh yeah, a lady died there waiting for her husband who was lost in a storm." The project manager does not believe me and offers for me to stay there again. Nope to the nope. My dad stays there. Then, 2 to 3 weeks later, the same thing happens to him. My mom stays there about a month later with her friend, who is the project manager's girlfriend. The same thing happens to her, but with her shoulder instead of her knee. Mom believed in supernatural shit. Mom tells me she thinks evil is there. None of us ever go back to stay the night.
Spookiest experience that's ever happened to me, maybe somewhat boring, so apologies. Be 19 or 20 at the time. Mom is friends with a realtor. The realtor asks Mom to present the house for her because she will be out of town. I go with Mom in case there is trouble. Plus she asked me and I am a mama's boy. We get to the house. It looks a bit run down, but could be fixed with some real hard work. An orange-picking couple rolls up and gets out of the car. We go inside. Immediately I am hit by this uneasy feeling, a weird smell, and I notice a disturbing lack of any noise inside. Walking around with them, the uneasy feeling becomes increasingly overwhelming, even crushing. I notice wasps that appear drunk, but are still alive on the windowsill. They are absolutely docile, but clearly alive. The feeling is becoming far worse, to the point where I am about to collapse. They are all fine, and I tell my mother what I am feeling. She asks if I am okay because I do not look well. No, I am not okay. It gets so bad I tell my mother I need to get out of the house and I practically run out. I feel immediate relief on exiting the house. It hits me like a wave. My senses return. My strength returns and everything just seems right. I told my mother I thought the house was haunted or possessed. It felt like an incredibly heavy pressure was being applied to the air itself. And overall, the experience did scare me quite a bit with how I was feeling, as was the vibe itself.
Before I went to the army and moved to the city afterwards, I lived in this small town in the middle of woods near nothing. Basically a place that once prospered, but eventually people just left, leaving behind lots of empty buildings and inbred families stalking the woods. Factor in the forest and the old World War II bunker network under the place, and you had a site for a lot of creepy shit for local youths to experience. One incident stuck to mind, however, mostly because it was hilarious and almost probably got me killed. Be me, around 14 or 15 or so. I'm walking home from a friend's house late in the evening. We live pretty close to each other, so our parents do not mind. Still, pretty close in the countryside meant almost 4 miles of walking. It is a cool, chilly autumn evening, which means that it is dark. There are no streetlights, barely any stars peeking through the clouds, just the moon and the lights of random houses in the distance. Anyways, I am walking past this large meadow that I need to circle around to get home. It was the land of this violent old coot who later turned out to have buried 3 wives in that soil, so there was no way anyone was going to cut across the meadow. Which was why it was so odd to see people there, standing in a circle. Not being a total idiot, I crouched in a ditch that ran alongside the road and took a look at who the hell was out this late on a random meadow. As it turned out, it was a cult in the middle of nowhere. They had big dark robes, heavy hoods and everything. I would have thought it was corny if I were not pissing my pants. I had seen enough weird shit in the town already to know local nutjobs attacking teenagers was not anything new, especially if they were part of a cult. So I just hid there, trying to see if they were about to sacrifice some poor sod or something. As it turned out, no blood rituals for these guys tonight. Just the ominous, low chanting in a moonlight meadow while standing in a circle. This went on for minutes during which I was stuck because I feared that if I rose up, they would notice me. Frankly, I did not want to test my speed against adults crazy enough to form a cult. So stuck I was, staring at whatever was coming at the end of the slowly building chant. Higher and higher, louder and louder it went. It was getting loud enough that I was surprised the old coot who owned the land had not woken up in his nearby house. However, at the point I thought they must be reaching the end, something happened. Something that made me burst out laughing. One of the sleeping cows in the meadow had decided enough was enough, and it was time to check out who these crazy humans were chanting in her field. So she barged into the circle like she was the goddamn cult leader and started sniffing the people and munching on their robes. Thus, I was treated with an image forever burnt in my memory. 10 or so oh-so-scary cultists shuffling around awkwardly as a cow tries to befriend them. So yeah, I started laughing, out loud, both out of released tension and of the absurdity of it. This, of course, meant that the cultists saw me, and I had to make a hasty retreat. Luckily, the cow was on my side that night. Large farm animals do not like it when you start screaming and shouting and making sudden moves near them. So she decided to kick this one cultist who fell like a sack of potatoes. I used this chance to get the hell out of Dodge, sprinting down the dirt road while the cultists tried to rescue their buddy from the wrath of Daisy. When I got home, I spent the remaining evening hiding in the bathroom, hoping nobody had followed. Nobody had, and I went unsacrificed, though it was not the last time I saw these jackasses. I once got in trouble while drinking out in the woods, and once saw them while spelunking in the abandoned bunkers. Neither time was as memorable, though. Still, it was hard to take those idiots seriously after they were defeated by a fucking cow.
I'm an RN, and the first job I got after my internship was at a regional hospital. Although I was supposed to be fluctuating between hospice and ER, there wasn't room for me yet, so I was assigned temporarily to the mental health division. Psych ward, if you will. 95% of the patents were admitted for either self-termination thoughts, attempts, or were coming out of drug rehab and were in need of additional mental well-being rehab. However, there were a handful that were a few that had frequent bouts of psychosis and needed care until they could be moved to a more suitable long-term care facility. There was one patient, Kara, who had pretty severe schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder, which is the more modern term for multiple personality disorder. She had to be medicated quite heavily at all times with haloperidol, Depakote, and an assortment of other medications and benzos. To put things in perspective, think of in the movies how you see those mental patients drooling all over themselves, unable to really function. That's because they are on haloperidol. That's how strong this stuff is. The problem is, haloperidol is very toxic on the liver, and half-life is longer than its active time. Meaning, there is a brief period where the haloperidol is no longer in effect, but it's too soon to give the patient more due to how taxing it is on the liver. Usually, this underlapping time is combated with benzodiazepines to keep the patient sedated until a new dose of haloperidol can be administered. Now, why is all that medical explanation relevant? Because during that underlapping time between doses, Kara's second personality would come out and she was mean and vicious and frankly downright violent. The benzos did not work in the slightest, despite giving her upwards to 6 milligrams of lorazepam, which is an insane amount for a 110-poundish girl. But what makes this creepy is the strange things that would happen when the second personality came out. It didn't have a name that we could figure out, because it didn't speak any coherent form of language that we could figure out. It wasn't like she was speaking another language, but they were just the strangest sounds that I could never replicate if I tried, and they were so fluent and connected that she would go on for minutes at a time with this made-up language without ever pausing. And over time, we started hearing the same sequence of sounds as if she was actually speaking a real language. It was beyond bizarre and surreal. Anyway, I'm getting a bit long-winded, so I skipped to the biggest scare I got. It was really, really early in the morning, I think around 4 a.m., and Kara switched over to her other personality and began freaking out, way more than usual. She was so strong, too. We had 3 nurses and her doctor trying to hold this 110-pound girl down, and it just wasn't happening. The doctor wanted to get her heavily sedated and strapped down, which is something we never like doing to patients, but it was necessary. So the one nurse runs down to grab a vial of pentobarbital, I believe, which is a pretty heavy sedative, and comes back while the rest of us are trying to keep Kara at least somewhat on her bed. as she is drawing the sedative into a needle to inject. The vial and syringe just fly out of her hands. I'm not talking like she dropped it either. I watched those things fly a good 5 feet through the air and slide to the other side of the room. Like I stated, there were us 3 nurses and the doctor in the room, and everyone but one of the nurses, who was busy trying to keep Kara's neck stabilized so she didn't strain it, saw the exact same thing. It was a really, really surreal moment. We all knew what we just saw, but no one said anything. After like half a minute, the doctor finally snaps us out of it and directs us to just try and get her strapped down. So after about 5 minutes of fighting with everything we had, we finally got her strapped in, and she didn't like this at all. She let out the most horrific scream I've ever heard in my life. It genuinely hurt my ears and made me so beyond lightheaded that I thought I would pass out. My vision went pure white. It took me a few seconds to snap out of it, and when I did, everyone around looked horrified, and then I saw why. Every single picture that was on the wall in the room and on her nightstand of her family had fallen onto the floor. Some of these pictures were in frames, and some were just pictures that she had stuck on the walls with a type of tack the patents are allowed to have. But without fail, every single one of them had fallen to the floor when she screamed like that. I didn't know what to make of it, and at the time I was more concerned with getting Kara taken care of. That was the last weird thing that happened that night. Eventually we got the sedative in her system and dosed her up with a new dose of haloperidol, but everything about that night just felt so wrong. The rest of my shift after that, I felt so sick and lightheaded, like I had all my energy drained out of me that moment she screamed. I have no explanation for what happened. For all of us there that night, it kind of became a situation where no one denied what happened, but we weren't eager to talk about it either. I kind of mainly keep this to myself, mainly because I value my career and don't want to have my sanity questioned in real life, but I don't mind sharing it here on /x/ since we're anonymous. The experience with Kara and her alter ego is both the scariest and most interesting experience of my life by far, and it sucks. I can't share that experience outside of the internet for fear of my ability to do my job being brought into question, but that's life. As far as what became of Kara, I'm not really sure. I was transferred to my main position at the ER not long after that. I imagine she is in a long-term care facility now, but I'm definitely curious what experiences the other staff that have worked with her might have had.
Moved to my current house last October. This past spring, I had a few instances of spooky activity. The first time I was in my room and I heard someone knocking on one of the doors in the house. I left my room to investigate and heard it again, coming from the basement door. Spooked the hell out of me. Figured someone was breaking in, so I grabbed the biggest knife I could find and yelled something like, "Hey, I'm armed, come out and I won't hurt you. I'll let you leave if you go quietly." I heard a ton of banging on the basement door right after that. Opened the door and rushed downstairs. Nobody was there. Checked everywhere, behind all the boxes and furniture, etc. Nothing. All the doors and windows were still locked. The second spooky instance happened about a month later. I was sitting in my room playing Vidya. My parents were out and took the dogs with them, so I was all alone. Heard some voices coming from downstairs. I thought maybe my parents came home with some friends. I didn't pay too much attention to it until I kept hearing voices I didn't recognize, and I didn't hear my parents' voices or my dogs. I listened a little bit closer and heard raspy voices talking, laughing, just having a good time with each other. I went downstairs to investigate, with a knife again, but didn't find anything. All the doors were still locked. I was a little spooked, but the ghosts seemed nice enough. Besides those stories, nothing too interesting. Hearing footsteps upstairs when I'm in the basement when nobody else is home. Windows were open sometimes in the spare room when nobody was in there. Little stuff. I told my girlfriend about this and we did some research. Turns out a husband and wife died of old age in the house in the 80s or 90s. Both were smokers, which explains the raspy laughing. The husband was an immigrant from Austria, I think, and the wife has always lived in America. They were churchgoers and stuff, so I don't expect anything too bad to happen.
This one requires a bit of context to make sense. After all, the town where I used to live wasn't some rustic Midwest Joe Dante wet dream. No, we talking about old world. So far up north it stopped being funny before I was born. As my friend called the place, the Great Gooch, lower than the asshole, higher than the balls. Anyhow, the woods there are a nightmarish place if only for what grows there. Moss everywhere, thick undergrowth, pine trees taller than Shaq, boulders left by Ice Age. You get the gist. Pain to move through even if you're prepared and know what to do. It doesn't help that the moment August ends, the temperatures drop faster than whores' drawers. So it's dark, it's cold, and it's impossible to enjoy anything. Nevertheless, we had rented a cabin with a few of our friends for a night of beer, whiskey, and copious amounts of smokes. Typical teenage stuff. Said cabin was good ways out of the town proper, but still within the limits. Be me, down to my last 2 cans of beer. I got sick of trying to get a fire going with wet wood, so I left that to my friends. Instead, my newscasted mind decided to take a walk and a shit in the woods. Because why the hell not? Plumbing was non-existent in the cabin anyways. The assholes who rented it might have mentioned that before we paid, though. In any case, off I went on my merry way to empty my bowels from burgers and steak. I walked for minutes upon minutes until I came across a perfect spot, a nice pine tree with a hefty enough girth. Using the trusty method of times gone by, I took off my belt, pulled down my pants, and wrapped the belt around the tree. Basically, I was hanging on to that leather strap so as not to shit on myself. It was around the time my balls were hanging wildly in the autumn air that I realized, wait a tick. Here I am, alone in the woods, in the middle of the night, without a light, still well within the sphere of crazy that was the Gooch. I had heard enough stories about the woods to know some disturbing shit went down there. Hell, I had seen some of that disturbing shit. This was around when I was 16, I think. Ironically enough, it would be in these very same woods that I would run into the cult of cow again, later. In any case, even as drunk as I was, I started to feel pretty defenseless then. Not only were my family jewels up for grabs for any passing animal, I was literally mooning the place where 1/3 of the craziness of my hometown happened. Never before or after have I prayed for my bowels to work faster than then. With teeth gritted, my asshole singing Ave Maria, I uttered a prayer to every deity from there to Timbuktu that nothing would happen upon me. But lo and behold, by the time I was finished and eased my grip on the belt, I noticed something standing some 15 feet from me. Something naked and gripping an axe. No lie, I let out a pretty girly scream at that point, one that my friends apparently heard back at the cabin. I nearly fell into the pile I had made. As I backed away, my hands protecting my precious, I finally got a good look at what the hell I was facing. Turns out, it was a random guy in his late 30s. He had curly brown hair full of twigs and leaves. His body was caked in dirt and other brown stuff I did not want to think about. Still, my eyes were mostly focused on the axe he was carrying. It was an old rusty thing with a short handle, but plenty dangerous enough. That was why his words took me by surprise. I cannot remember all he yammered about, but what he started with stays with me to this day. You're shitting on my rock. What can a man say to that? Sure enough, I had shat on a rock that could very well be his. All I could offer was a weak apology and a hasty assurance that I would not do it again. Good, but you still shat on my rock. Though he was shorter than me, he was the one armed, so I quickly offered him my unopened beer as an olive branch. Thank God for alcohol. He hopped over to me with this odd, springy gait, half walking, half jumping. He swiped the can from me and then settled on a boulder near us. Apparently the cold stone no longer bothered his buttocks. You know, kid, that's where I work, that stone you shat on. At this point, I had calmed down somewhat. He had an axe, sure, but he did not immediately take a swing at me. Maybe I could get out of this with my pachinko balls intact. Again, I apologized, took a swig of liquid courage, and inquired what he was working on. The shit I was about to hear was not exactly what I was expecting. He had this typical slightly mad glint in his eyes when he appeared. You know the type, where a person stares slightly off of you, never looking you in the eye. But now, Now his eyes were as clear as a bottle of Stolichnaya. I've been thinking about wave function, how to make it more accessible to people interested. Wait, what? I already wrote a chapter on the double slit experiment, you know? Still, I think I'm not making headway because I keep jumping from topic to topic without a rhyme or reason. To make his point, he hopped off the rock and went towards the direction where he had first appeared. From there, he came carrying a typewriter. A fucking typewriter. In the middle of the woods. With that came a stack of papers. From what he showed me, the only thing I could call it was Quantum Mechanics for Dummies. This guy had written over 50 pages about physics in the woods, with a goddamn rusty-ass typewriter. And damn if he was not good at it. I think I spent the next 20-some minutes listening to him yammer on about this and that. Quantum fields, phase spaces, you name it. There I was, drunk off my mind, pants around my ankles, staring at this naked scientist wannabe like some slack-jawed Luddite. In any case, things eventually wound down when he was finished with his beer. I had lit up a cigarette at this point, having long forgotten the can next to me. Setting his can and his typewriter aside, this lunatic grabbed his axe again and looked at me. Anyways, we had some unfinished business. We did? You shat on my rock, boy. And there was that mad glint again. The one I had dreaded would reappear. Sensing it was time to change the lecture hall, I scrambled for safety as fast as I could. The thing is, that is not that easy when your pants are below your knees and your belt lies forgotten on the boulder next to you. I half crawled, half ran out of there, scratching for cover the best I could. But you know what is not easy either? Taking a running sprint on a mossy forest floor after jumping down from a boulder. I hear this echoing smack from behind me, and as I throw a glance over my shoulder, this whack job is lying across the undergrowth in a spread eagle. He recovers quickly, but during that time I have already gotten on my feet. And thus begins the most absurd chase of my life. Me, my jeans chafing my ankles, trying to keep up enough speed to outrun a lunatic. The lunatic, trying his best to catch me while buck naked in the woods. Of course, my wardrobe malfunction made sure my run was pretty much just daintily skipping ahead while trying to untangle myself from my own clothes. His lot was much worse, however. The undergrowth I was talking about? My big frame and long johns protected me to a degree. He got the full-course pine needle buffet to his balls. So every now and then, his incoherent screaming of a man without sanity was cut by pitiable wails and curses of pain. Sometimes he fell. Sometimes he ran straight into a thorny bush. Sometimes he slammed his bare feet into the treacherous rocks. The few times I dared to look back, he looked like he had been beaten within an inch of his life. Our chase could not have lasted over half a minute, but eventually, I managed to rip my legs free from my jeans and beeline towards the cabin. I think he banged his knee or arm or something against a rock behind me because the last thing I heard was a horrible yell and a pretty bad crunch. I did not stay behind to see what went down, though. I ran as fast as I could, not caring about the branches striking me in the face or rocks ripping apart my shoes. According to my friends, when I finally emerged from the woods, I was quite a sight. Ripped clothes, disheveled hair, and still somehow managing to keep a hold of my cigarette. I screamed at everyone to get inside immediately. For all I knew, that lunatic was hot on my trail. Perhaps they sensed that something fucked up was going on. Perhaps they did not want to argue with a half-naked man. Whatever the case, my friends followed my orders. Only once inside did they break into howling laughter about my state. I, on the other hand, went around locking the doors and windows and trying to get my hands on something to defend myself with. I think I found an iron poker, much to my dismay. Luckily, it was not needed, because other than the occasional rambling scream echoing from deep within the forest, I never saw or heard from that forest man again. And since we were leaving anyway the next day early in the morning, we were not around for that long for him to find us. I did not sleep a wink that night, though. I just powered through it with coffee and cigarettes. Still, it was a bit humiliating to come home, having lost my jeans and looking like I was the crazy homeless person, not the one who had chased me. It took me a long time before I ventured into the woods again, and never returned to that cabin out of the fear of shitting on someone's thinking rock again. Ironically enough, I actually found out who this guy was much later, just a few years ago after I had moved to the city. I was talking with my friend at the university and he told me a story about an alumni from there. From what I understood, this guy was some kind of idiot savant when it came to physics. Entered a national physics competition as a kid. Left halfway but floored the judges. Rocketed through school and university while caring about nothing but the subject of his studies. Eventually it went a bit too far though. He sold his house, his belongings, his everything. Only used a satellite phone because he feared he would be tracked, before getting rid of that too. Only wore second-hand clothes, ate nothing but rice, slept in some dark corners of the campus while avoiding any and all contact with people. And after he was kicked out, he just told his family he was going to move to the Gooch to finish his book. From what I gather, he didn't trust the public transport system, so he walked, halfway across the country. Last rumor spoke that he bought some shack in those same woods, but it burned down when he tried to build a fire inside it to cook his damn rice. The only times he was seen after that were when he came to town proper during winters to steal blankets and food, and to sleep in the various abandoned buildings that dot the place. Haven't heard anything since though, so it could be that he froze during some especially cold winter.
First time on /x/, I have a story that might be fitting. In retrospect, it's quite dumb, but I'll share anyway. Circa 2008. I am in the military, deployed to some godforsaken shithole. The place is completely devoid of life. We are only supposed to do some guard duty. Our barracks are literally just a tin can on a hill. The beds are muddy. The shower is a faucet leaking icy water. It is a great place all in all. One of the posts is 3.5 kilometers away from the barracks. That is about 30 minutes walking, carrying all the gear. One day, a friend of mine who is supposed to take the post begs me to take it instead of him tonight. He says he heard some sort of animal there yesterday and he is scared to go there today. Whatever, I switch post with my friend. Now bear in mind, we've been at this place for a long time. 12 hours guard duty a day, staring off into nothing. 8 hours sleep, almost zero human interaction. After a while, the solitude starts to screw with your mind. That night I go to said post. It is a 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. shift. Everything is normal. 4 a.m. rolls around and I leave the post and start heading back to the barracks. Suddenly I am overcome with a sense of pure dread. The fog is the heaviest I have ever seen in my life. I cannot see further than 1 meter ahead, and even that is being generous. I know I cannot stay at the post, but I am afraid to head back for some reason. I started walking anyways. I cannot see any signs I'm even headed in the right direction. Not too far away, there is a place we are really supposed to stay away from. Because of actual humans. Thoughts that I might be headed to that place instead elevate my anxiety. I can feel my heart racing. I'm in this fog and it does not even feel like the real world anymore. It feels like some place between a dream and reality. I know I am walking, but it feels like my legs are just walking on their own. I feel like a spectator, and for some reason I just know something terrible is going to happen any second. I start seeing shapes in the fog. I know for a fact it is just my mind playing tricks, but it does nothing to calm me. I continue walking and start hearing sounds. For all I know, I'm not in the real world anymore and might never have been. It feels like I have been walking in this fog for an eternity. The shapes become more distinct. I stop. I see an animal come out of the fog. I just stand there and stare at it. I know it is a delusion. I cannot tell you if it was a boar or a wolf. It is like trying to remember a dream. Its scowl turns into a horrible grin with pointy teeth. It starts speaking. I can understand what it says, but its words are forgotten as soon as they are said. I come to 5 minutes later. I'm just standing in the fog with tears in my eyes, looking into nothing. I haul ass back. The moment I saw the lights of the barracks was one of the happiest moments of my life. I eat instant noodles and go to bed. I imagined weird shit a couple of times after that during service. Needless to say, after finishing my service, my mental health became better, and I never experienced something like that since then.
New Year's Day, 7 years old. I am a December baby, so I have lots of new toys from my birthday and Christmas. My parents are going to move my brother into the spare room because they realize we are too old to share a room anymore, him being 11. He has already moved his bed, so I am sleeping alone for the first time. One of my toys was an RC hockey set. Around 11 p.m. I woke up to the RC going off. making a sound and turning in place. I jump out of bed and turn them off. Around 12:30 a.m. they go off again. Oh my spook. I jump up and take out the batteries. I wake up at 2 a.m. and the RCs are moving around the room, not turned on, but still moving. I grab them, run outside, and throw them out. Dad, what the fuck's at me, slamming the door when I came back in and asks me why I am awake, etc. I explain. He comforts me and tells me I am okay and that he understands. He goes outside and puts the toys in the dumpster rather than leaving them in the yard. I go back to bed. 7 a.m. I have been awake since. My brother got on his bus and went to school. My mom headed out the door, and my dad was getting ready to go to work and drop me off at school. I ran back to my room to grab something, one of my toys for the post-Christmas show and tell. The door starts slamming repeatedly. The frame of the door starts cracking, and I am obviously screaming. My dad runs over and tries to get in. After being hit with the door twice, he kicks it down commando style, grabs me, and runs out of the house. My mom had not left yet. My dad puts me in her car and they talk in the front yard. My eyes are locked on the house. I can swear I see something in the window and the door is swaying like something is waiting. My mom calls me out from school for a week and I go to stay with my grandma. After my brother gets out of school, he joins me. A week later, they pick us up and take us to our new home. Never a problem since. My parents never explained. My dad got really shit-faced with me, brother and friends on my 19th. Everybody else blacked out by then, and we're going back and forth on shots of whiskey. He asked me if I'd ever had such a fun birthday. I said no, but I asked about the incident. He didn't say anything for 2 shots. Then he explained I was supposed to be a twin. My twin died during the pregnancy, and the doctors said I absorbed her. After they got back from the hospital, strange stuff kept happening until I was born. After that, it settled down except for a few knocked-over glasses and weird noises. It tapered off completely around my 5th birthday. They think the stress of my brother getting a new room and me getting a bunch of new stuff and not sharing may have provoked whatever was happening. Said he thought it was my twin. I'm 24 now, moved out and with my wife. We're thinking of having a kid soon. Honestly, I'm nervous, because every now and then when I'm falling asleep, I still hear stuff move around my house.
Okay, so this is the creepiest thing that ever happened to me. Situational. There's this place where the highway ends. It's out in the farmland area, and it's a place where a 2-lane highway was supposed to connect with another part up ahead, but it never got completed. Something about a wildlife preserve getting made where the road would have went. Anyways, the 2 lanes just kind of end in this field. Everything seems normal, and then all of a sudden the road stops being marked. After a while, it looks like a stretch of place where they were testing a machine used to mark the streets, and it's weird. It's absolutely covered in random yellow street lines. All the signs have bullet holes. There's loads of shells everywhere. Sometimes we find weird piles of bones. It's the kind of place where if you arrive and there's another car, you get out of there. You never know if the other people are going to be weirder than you. Sometimes police come out to make sure no one is up to anything. They tell us we shouldn't be here because supposedly this is where gangs dump bodies. It's out of their jurisdiction, so they can't make us leave and usually just go. We usually just get high out there and enjoy the creepy atmosphere. Story time. B21. I am with the usual suspects. One brought along this one guy, so now there are 4 of us. It is January and cold, and it does not look as creepy in the snow. It is kind of beautiful. We are telling scary stories sitting on top of the car and smoking. It is dark and silent. My friend tells one about skinwalkers. I think that was the name. Shamans who skin animals and wear their bodies and use it to kill people and stuff. I do not remember the details. In the story, he mentioned how you are not supposed to say the word aloud outside because they hear it. Whenever he said the name, he spelled it out quietly. The new guy thinks he is funny. He immediately shouts, "Skinwalkers!" We are like, oh shit. He is laughing, but we are quiet. He does not get it and does it again, shouting as loud as he can. We cannot be that pissed. We know it is just a story. But we are creeped out. This is a creepy place. We decided to leave shortly after. Driving up the road, it is night, and the headlights are low because the snow is blinding. We are chatting and listening to music as we drive. The driver slams on the brakes suddenly, sending us skidding forward. Everyone is freaked out. "What the fuck, man?" He silently points outside the window. In the snow, illuminated by the lights, is a dead animal, right in the middle of the road. It is still warm. You can see the steam coming up. My feels when it is skinned. We nope out of there. The driver is speeding. Music is off. Everyone is silent. I am playing on my phone, afraid to look out the window. One friend in the front seat screams, a real scream, not a joke. He says he thought he saw two eyes looking at him on the side of the road. 30 minutes later, we were all at my house. No more drinking or smoking that night. All the lights are on and the windows and doors are locked. We never speak of it aloud again. We never go back, even though we used to go all the time.
I have a story that one of my neighbors told me when we were little. Not paranormal, but scoopy nonetheless. Be my neighbor. He is probably around 8 to 10 years old. It has been so long, I cannot remember. He is having a sleepover in the basement with his brother and a few friends. The basement is connected to the garage at the ground floor. To set the scene a bit, basement is basically a little lounge room, a walk-in closet that has a washer and dryer in it, a door that connects directly to the garage, and some steps leading to the front door, which directly faces another set of steps that leads to the main floor of the house. The side of the house has a built-in garage facing the woods, with a shortish driveway leading to the street. Oh, yeah, and this all takes place in a town that's in the woods. Anyways, it was somewhere between 1 to 3 a.m. on a summer night. Since they were lazy and tired children who came from a good town, they had left the garage door open from when they came in from playing manhunt or something. They were tired and all trying to sleep. The family dog, a black lab, had woken one of the kids up after some time to go outside because it could not wake the parents. It woke up one of the friends who was staying over. The kid lets the dog out through the garage and leaves the connecting door slightly ajar, so the dog can let itself back in and just goes back to sleep. My friend fades in and out of sleep as soon as the kid lets the dog out. He is groggy, so he does not care or realize what is going on. He wakes up sometime later to see the basement door open all the way. There is no sign of Doggo, but he slips into sleep anyways. He fades awake a few more times. The door is still wide open with nothing in the environment changing. He wakes up again, but this time sees the silhouette of the dog standing in the garage, meandering about. The dog eventually starts heading into the basement. It starts walking around, but something is off. My friend calls out in a soft, sleepy voice to his dog, "Samson?" The dog jumps in place a bit and softly growls. My friend is still too groggy to register what is going on, so he starts to sleep again. Before he drifts off, he watches the dog casually leave the basement through the garage and around the house. My friend wakes up in the morning to find out that his friend watched the dog piss in the driveway through the open door, and then watched the dog wander up the stairs to the main floor without getting up to close the door after the dog. He probably saw a coyote that just wandered into his house and could have done who knows what, but it passed out when it heard his voice. His dog was too lazy or sleepy to investigate the sound of a visitor from the other floor. They all got scolded by parents for leaving the garage open. Not the spookiest of tales, but it's a story nonetheless.
Being me, in the 3rd grade, I get a new bed. It is a metal loft with a futon on the bottom. I started hearing weird noises. The first time, I heard paper ripping on the bottom bunk. I usually hear tapping sounds, just a monotonous unsteady rhythm of taps. It sounds like it is on plastic. The tapping would stop when I talked. One night my mom came in. The tapping stopped. I searched my room with her there. Right after she leaves, tap, 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 tap. Fast forward 2 years. I am used to the encounters. I have an idea. I am home alone in the middle of a summer day. The door and windows are closed and the shades are up. I go to my closet. The bed is behind me with 2 bionicles hanging from it from strings. I like to pretend they were fighting in mid-air. The bionicles were tangled together. I placed an M&M on the closet shelf. If you are real, eat this M&M. Nothing happens. I repeat myself for another solid minute. I realize how stupid this is and get frustrated. Okay, I guess you are not real then, in a smug tone. I immediately hear a single tap. I spin around as fast as I could. The bionicles are swinging back and forth. I act confused. I am sorry. I did not mean it. I walk calmly out of my room like I did not just shit my pants. Everything stopped after that. It was a relief, but also a disappointment because something I couldn't see responded to me, and it's intrigued me ever since. I don't have any mental issues and nothing like that has happened since. Thoughts?
I had a similar experience. I used to live in a haunted apartment. Yes, apartment. My family is poor, so we simply went to a different room number. The landlord knew it was haunted, so we were allowed to move. You usually are not welcome back if you vandalized, but we blamed the poltergeists. Well, I got a new wardrobe that I didn't really use. It had a few toys in it. It would squeak at night only, as if it were wobbly. It stopped when I moved or coughed. I began to get annoyed, so before bed I stockpiled shoes and other stuff near me to throw. It'd stay quiet for a few minutes after a good whack. My mom got pissed because my shoe throwing woke her up. She said she'll stay in my room to see if perhaps it's a mouse. But it never squeaked when she stayed in my room. I never talked to it though. But it did go away after a while. However, I did one time see a white hand in my closet, which is right in front of the wardrobe.
My scariest story is a dream I've had. Not too long ago, I had a dream of my future self. But it was like I was living that day. Like I woke up from the dream of me crashing on my bed after working in my present time. It's like I was really waking up in the dream, and I was that old. I must have been possibly 65, maybe even 70. The subconscious mind has led me to know things in my life. Smaller details that I passively thought about. I knew I had a son that hated me, a new younger wife, a daughter that adored me and wanted to idolize me. Tiny details such as my mother died 5 years ago, and 40 years before or so a catastrophic war occurred, but humanity survived. In this dream, I was a very wealthy man, like 1% wealthy. I don't know what my job was, but I felt that the war I was talking about was a way to allow me to profit. I think I was retired, because I was in no rush to get up that morning. I had some eggs, some toast, and my routine. In the dream, there wasn't much of a difference in the future. No massive plastic buildings, no super advanced robots. The noticeable was minor holographic technology, but not even. You had to wear glasses to see it, and different car models. More circular, but not super different. Anyways, past these, I must have spent an hour getting ready in the dream. I put on jogger gear as well, as I was much more skinnier than I was now. The worst part is it leads to my current health. As I had gone down the elevator, I believed I was in some sort of penthouse. I exited the building to be greeted by 2 bodyguards in suit and tie. One opened the door to the back seat, and I naturally got in. As I was experiencing the dream, I had nothing but déjà vu throughout it. In the dream, I had felt like everything I was doing I had seen before, and it was making me uneasy. We were in the car for around half an hour. I was listening to some beats and drinking the rest of my coffee. When we had stopped, we arrived at a fairly empty trail route in a forested area. I guess I would take my jogs here, and my bodyguards would come to jog with me. However, the déjà vu feeling was still heavy, and it was extremely heavy here because I had some feeling that I knew what was going to happen next. I had feelings of regret, not because I had gone through this trail or anything, but because I felt like I hadn't accomplished enough. I had waved off my bodyguards, Told them, I was going to jog alone today. Leave me. They at first were hesitant because I was their paychecks, I guess. But I said to them, don't worry, I'll be fine. Leave me. Come by in an hour. So I continued on my path down the trail and looked back at them to see them as they waited by the car. 15 minutes into the jog, I noticed a clearing in the woods. I've seen it a million times before, but instead of staying on the path, I stopped for a moment and thought for a moment before entering the clearing. It was grassy, a little damp, and the clouds were up. It wasn't a sunny day. Details I remember about this day. I took a moment to look around at the trees and at the sky for a bit before I looked at my watch. October 18th. No year. 9:13 a.m. I took a deep breath and exhaled. When I exhaled, I felt a sharp pain through my arm, and I knew it was coming. I then felt my heart overpump, like 1,000,000 miles per hour. Then I fell on the ground on my back. I looked up to the sky and grinned sadistically. I stared at the sky as my heart slowed down to a really, really slow beat, and I whited out. I woke up with the whiteout still in my head. I couldn't see anything right away for probably 5 seconds until it dimmed out. I didn't jump out of bed or anything. I just woke up with my eyes open looking at the ceiling of my room. I also felt the pain of the cardiac arrest I must have had. My arm was tingly and breathing in hurt like a phantom pain, but the pain wasn't actually there. I looked over to my phone, and between my sleep and waking up, I had only slept for half an hour, but the dream felt like 3.5 hours. I went right back to sleep, but the dream hasn't left my mind. Just everything about the dream had so many minor details that if I was experiencing it again, I knew what there was. Like if we were thinking about that last 20 years, I'd remember every event leading up to that. But I wasn't thinking about it in the dream, so I didn't know. I remembered raising my kids, getting married, getting divorced, and getting married again. For the last 3 months, this dream has tormented me, knowing the pain of my death and knowing how willingly I accepted it. Or maybe I was just aware it was going to happen. Anyways, I've told like 2 people of this dream, my mother and my roommate, but they just say, it's only a dream, but I don't feel like it's a dream.
I wake up in bed and open my eyes to someone kneeling beside my bed looking at me. I jump and they are gone. I told my parents over dinner the next day. I lived with them at the time. 2 weeks ago, my dad had the same thing happen and had told my mum. My parents' house is haunted. Had lots of weird shit like that happen while growing up. I moved out and nothing. And then, when I moved back, I had weird shit like that happen again. I'm not even Christian, and my logical mind tells me no, but I've experienced supernatural shit, and it makes me question things. More to come. The night my granddad died, I woke up to someone sitting on the end of my bed looking at me in the dark. I could feel them sitting on my bed. I freaked and turned the light on, and they were gone. My parents were up and came upstairs because of my scream, and told me 10 minutes before the hospital had rang, and my granddad was dead. Went to Nocton Hall, abandoned hospital with friends at midnight. It's creepy and in the middle of some woods. I get on site. It is eerily quiet and dark at midnight. Every now and then, we think we hear someone walking on the gravel. We keep stopping to listen, but it stops. Going down a corridor and there is a huge bang. We went into the hospital wardroom where the bang came from. At the end, there is a fire exit door that is jammed partially open. It is overgrown and not going to move. We all stop to listen again for spooky things. The door suddenly slams shut with immense force. There was not even that much gap open for the door to pick up enough speed to make that kind of noise. We ran out, shitting bricks. We go back inside once we've all got courage, and we go down to the end. The fire door is now wide open. We look outside and nothing, so we close the fire door. We stop and listen for spooks. Nothing. We start to walk away and suddenly the door starts making a weird creaking noise. There is the sound of a wild pig squealing, but as if a human was making the noises. It felt like it was zoomed in on me, as if it was something coming toward me,
and I could feel it. We all freaked out and got the fuck out of there, back to the car. Everyone else heard the same thing and described it the same way, as in it was something we encountered, and it felt like it was zooming in on us. It was not a case of did we? It is a case of, okay, we have found something bad here. It spooked me out for ages and put me off urbexing. Even typing this out right now, I am getting goosebumps.
Not a terrifying story, but I still get a little creeped out when I think about it. Be me. About 12 years old. Just got back from school, and my parents were not home yet. I was a little bit of a pyromaniac at the time. Decided it would be a good idea to play with matches in the backyard. We lived out in the country, and we had a small barn pretty close to our house. I sit on the ground and start lighting matches and flicking them. Try to set some dead leaves on fire and see how long I can hold on to them before they burned me. I light a match and hold it up to the leaf. Just as it starts to burn, I hear my name being called faintly from the barn. Anon. I freaked out and put the fire out quickly, but when I looked toward the barn, but I did not see anyone there. I thought it must have been my imagination, so I turn away to light another match. Suddenly, I heard my name called again. Anon! I was 100% sure it was not my imagination this time, and I knew I was in trouble. I guiltily walked towards the barn, but when I arrived, no one was there. Confused and a little freaked out, I walked around to look at the driveway to see if anybody was home. No cars. I walked back around the house to look at the barn again. No one's there. I called out. No answer. My parents both came home about an hour later. They swore it was not them, and they did not have anything to do with it. I did not sleep much that night. I'm still not sure what to make of this, because I know I heard a voice. Later I asked any friends and family that live close if they were messing with me, but they all swear innocence. It's the only thing that's happened to me that I just genuinely don't have an explanation for.
When I was about 8, I slept with the door to my room open every night because I was a little wuss and still am. Mom and Dad knew I would get scared if my door was shut, so it always remained open. One night I woke up to my door clicking shut. I lay there debating on getting up and opening, maybe yelling at whoever did it. Too tired, roll over and go to bed. Next morning I wake up, Grandma is there. No Mom and Dad. They were at the hospital. Whoever closed my door that night stabbed my dad's throat. He lived and was fine, a few centimeters short of major veins or windpipe. No one ever caught, no suspects. He woke up bleeding to no one in the house.
That's absolutely horrifying. More details, nothing was stolen. Did he have enemies? If none of these things, did you ever think it was maybe your mom?
Details, let me think. The strange thing about it was, as far as the doctor could tell, it was done with something like a jagged piece of glass. It was a stab and not a slit. They thought maybe some glass got in the bed, but they turned the room upside down in the days after, and no glass or anything jagged, no broken glass on our property. The back door was unlocked, but that was not unusual. We had a big German shepherd who barked at anyone that even walked by the house. Nothing was stolen, and as a matter of fact, the doctor suspected my mom, but my dad woke her up bleeding to take him to the hospital. So I feel like it's pretty far out there for her to just stab him with broken glass and roll over and go back to sleep. We did lock the back door after that, and my dad always had a scar on his neck. It still haunts me thinking of what might have happened if I got up, so now I sleep with my bedroom door locked.
I am pretty sure that your mom did it. She got up and closed your door so you won't be able to see or hear that happen, and then stabbed him and turned around acting like she was sleeping and pretended to be surprised. Next time she got there, she got rid of the glass weapon.
Could have been my mom, I guess. That incident was in 1995 or 1996. He offed himself in 2009. Everything about it was weird. He walked off one day and was missing for a week. Cops came to our door and said they found him in a park down the block, overdosed on pills. He was very decomposed and must have been dead that whole week, but his body was found by the picnic tables in the park and up against a chain-link fence with backyards on the other side. The back doors of these homes couldn't have been more than 15 feet away from my dad's rotting body, and nobody that used the picnic tables saw him or smelled a rotting body for a week. His body wasn't obscured in any way from the park side or these people's homes. It was the height of summer. The cops didn't think it was weird in any way when we went to see where the body was found. We found the cap to the pill jar and pieces of my dad's hair and scalp still in the chain-link fence. He also had a 24-pack of Bud Light next to him. My dad did not drink. I guess if you are going to off yourself, all your rules go out the window, but any store he would have gone to would have required him to walk back by our house, then go back to the park. Why would he do that? I watched him walk away, and he went in the direction of the park, not the store. Then after my dad had been dead for a while, this guy from down the block came over to our house and made the comment out of no place he could have someone killed for $500. I told the police all this. Nobody gave a shit. He's dead, nothing will bring him back, so I don't give a shit.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.